Good luck.
Merhabalar arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün İsveç'in en iyi üniversitesi Lund University eğitimi Rebecca'dan dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı sağ alt köşede Questions bölümünden yönlendirmeyi unutmayın. Yes, Rebecca, the stage is yours now.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here today. Welcome everybody who is attending. I am happy to join you. My name is Rebecca. I am from Lund University, and I am the representative who works with Turkey amongst other countries. So today I'm going to give a short presentation. I will share my screen now, and we're going to do a presentation for around maybe 30 minutes, and then we will have time for some questions. So please do feel free to ask your questions in the question box. And while I'm presenting, I cannot see those, but after I finish presenting, then I will definitely look at those and answer them. Hopefully I'll answer some of them while you are watching as well. So I hope you can all see my screen, and I will start. We are going to start with a brief introduction to Sweden and Lund as well, and then we will talk about eligibility for our programs, specifically for Turkish students in terms of if you apply for our bachelor's, our master's, and also how to prove your English proficiency. Then we'll speak a little about what it's like to study in Sweden, and then we'll talk about tuition fees and funding. Briefly, we'll mention housing as well, and finally finish with some key dates and deadlines and a couple of important tips that I can give you for your application. So starting wide, we will start with Sweden. If you haven't considered Sweden before, then it's really good to know a few key things that you might not realize. For one thing, Sweden has the second highest proficiency in English as a second language in the world. English is spoken by 90% of the population. So you can certainly come to Sweden and speak English, especially in Lund, which is a student city full of researchers and students speaking English, shops and restaurants. There's a lot of English being spoken. It's definitely possible to come and only speak English during your time here. Of course, you can also learn Swedish if you want to, but it's not compulsory, which is good to know. Sweden is ranked 5th best in the world at providing higher education by the Universitas 21 rankings, and one of the safest countries in the world, and one of the best in which to live. We often come really close, tied with Denmark, so we're a bit rivals with them for the best country to live in Europe. Sweden is ranked as also one of the most creative countries in the world, has one of the highest levels of gender equality, which we're very known for, and is well known for its eco-friendly culture, and we'll also touch on that later as well. And we're ranked the 5th most innovative economy in the world by the 2021 Bloomberg Innovation Index. So we have a lot going for us already just in Sweden. And then Lund itself is a really wonderful city. It was founded in 990, so it's one of the oldest cities in Sweden. And during this presentation, you will see various pictures of beautiful buildings, medieval buildings actually, that belong to the university usually, in the city of Lund. The city was very much around the university from the start. It's a population of 125,000, which for most people feels like quite a small city or town. It's a real university town experience. And we have links to many world-class research and development units of companies which are based in Lund or very close by, such as Ericsson, Sony Mobile, Tetra Pak, for example. So one of the things I will talk about a little later is that our programs are very often applied programs involving, especially in the second year, some kind of project or internship or research work that you can do with a company or with a research unit of some kind. So we're very, very well placed in Lund to make those connections, which is very helpful. It's a student city. We have a wonderful culture of student activities in the city. We have something called Nations. It's only us and Uppsala University in Sweden which has this. And essentially, it's social clubs with different names. And I sometimes jokingly compare them to Harry Potter houses because it's kind of like that, like which nation are you in? Slytherin. No, it's not Slytherin, but you get what I'm saying. So it's a really nice, like, club for people to kind of, you can choose which one you want to be in, and then you can take part in their activities or the other nation activities also. But you can get really involved if you want to. The nations do things from cooking food for people during the day, so you can get like a very inexpensive meal through one of the nations. They do pub nights, they do quizzes, they do music, and some of them have a choir, some of them do theatre, some of them do political activities or business networking. So you can really find the one that feels the right fit for you. And we also have an academic society and student unions organizing events and activities all the way through the year. The rich history and cultural heritage of Sweden is visible in the town, but also you have this dynamic and international atmosphere. The photos on the right of the screen that you're looking at now are of the Carnival, which is run every couple of years by students. It's one of the largest student-run events in the whole of Europe, with millions of people visiting for that event. The city is only 10 minutes away from Sweden's third largest city, which is Malmö, and 40 minutes away from Copenhagen. So it's a great location if you want to travel around later as well. So the university itself is a world top 100 university founded in 1666. You can see in this picture the main administrative building of the university, which is just beautiful, especially at this time of year in autumn. That's my favorite time of year for the university campus. And we are a comprehensive university, meaning that we cover a range of different areas. We have 9 different faculties. In a second, I'll show you our spread of programs as well. We have 46,000 students and 8,400 staff, and 27% of our students are international students. We really love that. We want to have a wide range of students in the classroom in terms of both academic background and cultural background, so that we can all learn from each other's experience and expertise. So we consciously try to recruit from a variety of countries in the world rather than just all from one country, for example. We have 140 degree programs taught in English, and we're home to many world-leading research environments, and we are the location for 2 of Europe's largest research facilities, Max4 and ESS, which is the European Spallation Source, which is very well known across Europe. We have recently been ranked 12th in the QS Sustainability World Rankings 2022, so 12th in the world for sustainability, which we're extremely proud of. As I mentioned earlier, Sweden is very much known as being an eco-friendly country, and the university itself is no exception to this. We're very thoughtful about sustainability, and we're working in a lot of different research areas to do with sustainability. We are also 49th place in the Times Higher Education most international universities in the world. And as I mentioned, this is very much a strategic choice on our part. We want to have that reputation, and we want to encourage you to build your global networks while you're here. So here is our international programs in a summary. Of course, I can't go through every one, but you can see the areas, the general areas that we offer. And within that, you can see that we have many different master's programs in each area. So in engineering and technology, for example, we've got things from areas such as like artificial intelligence through to like maybe mechanical engineering, for example. So you can have a look on our website. I'll share the link after this presentation to browse our programs by subject area and find the program that's right for you. We also have lots of research and career opportunities if you study with us. We're a member of many international university networks, such as LERU and Universitas 21. And as I mentioned, we're home to Max4 and ESS. Students in Lund are given the opportunity to interact with businesses, with the local area being so broad in terms of what it can offer in terms of global companies. So that's something that, as I mentioned already, is really a positive of where we're located and the kinds of, it's also, I think, the reputation that we have with employers. So the fact that we work hard to build these links, and then we maintain those links. We send students to these companies every year, and obviously it's working well for them. So this is like an established relationship that we have with many companies. As I mentioned, many programs include a specific internship or project and the option of completing a thesis in collaboration with an employer. And you therefore have the opportunity to build your reputation with that employer during your time working with them. So hopefully that would lead to a job after, if you make an impression, a good impression. And we also offer career support. So that includes if you need help finding an internship for that second year, for example, or even starting a business. We have a venture lab, we have an entrepreneurship program, and we're always looking for people who want to start their own venture as well. Okay, now I'm going to go into eligibility and things that you should know if you're applying for one of our bachelor's or master's programs with educational merits from Turkey. So this is like sometimes a little bit complicated, so please feel free to ask your questions and I will try to answer them after, but I won't necessarily be able to go specifically into detail about individuals' eligibility, but we can definitely do that after the event if you contact me later. So okay, so we'll start with bachelor's and we'll talk about the general eligibility to apply for one of our bachelor's programs. We have around 9 bachelor's programs at the university, so not that many, but in order to apply for them, you have to have completed your secondary studies, and there's a list here of what that means, what kind of diplomas you can present, and you also have to, of course, present your transcript as well. Admission for our bachelor's programs is based purely on your high school grades. So you also have to have studied specific subjects usually to apply. So for example, our international business program requires a certain level of mathematics and social science. And it can be kind of difficult to explain what this means for students who have graduated high school in another country, because the requirements are usually listed as the Swedish requirements, the Swedish high school requirements. So for example, you might see mathematics 3 or mathematics 4 or social science 1B, and that doesn't really mean anything if you're looking at it from outside of Sweden. But I can tell you that in general, any science requirement that we have, so for example, physics, chemistry or biology, will usually be met by 12 units of study for high school studies taken after 2011. Or if you're looking at maths, then usually maths 3 would be met through, I think it's 12 units of study. I can double check that later. But if it's maths 4, it would have to be more, like, actually, I think maths 3 was 20 units of study. I'll check that after. And then more for maths 4. I'll check the maths requirement later. Now I'm doubting myself now that I'm live. And social studies, social science usually can be met through a subject such as history, politics, civics, or sociology, something along those lines. We're used to people applying with a range of subjects in that area because, of course, not everybody has a subject called social studies. So it's okay to apply with what you have that's related to social studies in some way. I hope that helps, but as I mentioned, it can be a bit complicated with bachelor's, so we can talk about specific cases at a later date. Okay, master's is a bit more simple. For master's, you just need to have completed your bachelor's degree usually, and a 2-year degree does not fulfill the requirements, but at least 4 years meets the requirements. A GRE or a GMAT is not required. There's a couple of programs where they will accept them in the business school, but it's not necessary. It's only if you have a really excellent score and you just think maybe it will help if you're like against somebody who doesn't have that. But it's quite rare that it becomes a deciding factor. So you can submit it if you have it for those programs. You can check on the program webpage whether they ask for it or not. Most programs will also have specific academic background that they require. So what that means is that, of course, if you're going to study a program, say in biology, you should have previously studied biology. There's going to be some things, some subjects where it's necessary that you have previously studied that field in the past. Some programs are a bit more open, however. So, for example, our public health program is open to any academic background. So my main advice would be to go onto the program web pages and have a look on there what the eligibility requirement is, and then see whether you have previously studied those subjects in the past. I can also share some information about how to convert to ECTs as well, if that's needed as well. And the good thing is, so I should have mentioned, with bachelor's, you have to have completed your high school studies before you apply. But with masters, then final year bachelor students can apply. There is a form on universityadmissions.se, which you have to fill out if you're in your final year of study. So that's a good thing to note, that you can apply with provisional grades when you're in your final year of your bachelor's. Okay, finally, proof of English proficiency. So unfortunately, upper secondary studies from Turkey do not meet the requirement to prove your English proficiency, but you can prove through some of your previous university studies. So if you have a university transcript or a degree certificate where it's clearly stated that the language of instruction for the program was English, or a degree that was awarded recently, so within the last 10 years, from a university where English is the only language of instruction. And how we check that is we look on the International Handbook of Universities or the World Higher Education Database. So you can actually just search World Higher Education Database and then look for your school on there and see whether it's clear that they only teach in English. And the degree has to be at least at bachelor's level, or it can be a master's. Then, of course, if that doesn't apply to you, then you can take a test. There are many different options. We've listed here the requirements for IELTS and TOEFL because they're the most popular tests. But you can have a look on university admissions for more information about how else you can prove your English proficiency. And again, I can share that link after. I've got them all ready to go. So that's the main things you need to know about eligibility. And now we'll just briefly talk about what the study experience is actually like at Lund University. So this is one of our lecture halls. I think it's like fairly standard. And you can see a lot of screens here, a lot of people drinking coffee. And I'm not sure if that's actually allowed, but anyway, and just like listening. But in fact, at the university, although we do have lectures, we also have various different ways of learning as well. So we have global class environments with interdisciplinary opportunities. We're trying to create those cross-cultural perspectives and international networks. Usually you study one course at a time. I don't actually know what it's like in Turkey. Maybe somebody can tell me. But I know from my own experience in the UK that in the UK we study at least like 3 modules or courses at the same time, and we end up having to do essays and exams all at the same time at the end of the term, which can be a real challenge for planning and organization and making sure that you can manage your workload and your stress. In Sweden, it's very different. You study one thing at a time, and at the end of each course, you basically do your examination of some kind, assessment, maybe it's a paper or maybe it's an exam, and then you move on to the next thing, which for me was just a weight off my mind. I really enjoy this method that they have. You can see here that a course can be 2 weeks long if it's an introduction course, for example, or 20 weeks long for maybe your thesis, depending on the length of your program. So most courses are usually between 6 and 10 weeks long. Contact time varies. So as we said, it can be formal lectures, and some courses, like maybe really technical courses, can have as many as 30 formal lecture hours a week. But some, like social sciences, can have maybe only 10 lectures a week, and some of those might even just be seminars as well, where you're sharing your reading or presenting on something that you've just been studying, showing what you've learned, sharing with your other students. And those subject areas also rely more on reading as well and research. And like I said, you often have to present what you've learned that week. Teaching methods can also include, of course, lab work and group work. And I just want to mention here, group work is not something that is like super common in every country, I think. But in Sweden, it's extremely common. And I was a bit scared of this when I first came to study in Sweden, because I was like, what if somebody doesn't pull their weight? But in the end, it was actually one of my favorite things that I experienced in my program, because I got to know my fellow students so well. And we were mixed up a lot, and it meant that we had to really get to know each other, get to know each other's strengths, and more importantly, get to know your own strengths as well and weaknesses in a group setting. So I actually think that was one of the most valuable things that I did during my time in Sweden. Also, it isn't written here, but in terms of assessment, some programs only have a pass-fail system, and some courses will have a graded system. So again, the Swedish system in general is not so results-focused as some other countries. The pressure is perhaps not so intense. It's more about what you're learning, the process, how you get there. And that is really the emphasis, which is just wonderful from a pedagogical standpoint as well. Students are expected to be active in the classroom and take a high degree of responsibility for your studies. So if you have a question about something, if you don't know something, you're expected to seek out the answer, but the teachers will be there and will be open to that. You can book a meeting with them, you can ask them questions, they will welcome it. And we pride ourselves on our facilities also, our libraries. Each faculty has a library, each building really has a library, and we also have great labs as well. And as I mentioned, supportive relationships with staff. So I can say from experience, it's a really great place to learn. And you do get more out of your studies because you're in an environment which is so conducive to learning as well. Okay, now we'll talk about scholarships. I know this is a big, a big concern for many students. And it's sad that we used to have a specific scholarship for Turkish students, the Swedish Institute Scholarship. And sadly, for a couple of years now, that hasn't been available. So it is an area where we struggle a little to provide support for our Turkish students. But I'll go through a couple of options here and a couple of tips that I have. So in terms of tuition fees and living costs, then we have different tuition fee levels depending on the program. And this is because we are a state institution. So we don't make profits on our courses. We try to just reflect the costs that are there. So for example, if you're studying a social science, then your course may cost 10,000 euro per year. But if you're studying something like, say, architecture, which requires lots of equipment and software, then maybe it's 21,000 per year. And you pay it in installments once per semester. You also have to show, when you apply for your residence permit as a student, you have to show that you have enough money to support yourself. And that number changes a little year on year, but at the moment, it's around 8,500 euro that you would have to show for 12 months. A monthly budget of around 900 euro a month is recommended. It can be a little bit more or a little bit less. Restaurants and taxis can be expensive, but also I would say food as well. But I mean, I know from being in Istanbul recently that this is also the case everywhere. So it is unfortunately affecting everybody in different ways. So yeah, just be aware that of course costs can rise, and have a look close to the time also to make sure you know what you need to show the migration agency. We'll be running sessions in spring to help you with that process as well. Okay, so funding options. We do have something called the Lund University Global Scholarship, and all non-EU citizens, so basically all fee-paying students, are eligible to apply. This offers a partial tuition fee discount rather than any living costs. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but it's merit-based and very selective. I know of a couple of local scholarships available. Oh, I'm sorry, I just realized this is India. I should say Turkey. I apologize. I know of a couple local scholarships for Turkey that are available. The Jean Monnet Scholarship, for example, that is only available for a 12-month or less program. So if you're coming for a one-year master's, then I would recommend looking into that. Of course, there is also the MEB Bursu, and I understand that not everybody always wants to get a scholarship that has conditions, but it's worth looking into your local options. And also there might be more maybe specific to your region or specific to your subject. So I will share this link also in the chat after, and you can check to see if there's any other scholarships which are suitable for you, and of course do your own research. And obviously, there's also the option of looking into funding in other ways, such as loans, for example. But yeah, I would just encourage you to think about many different options and apply to everything which you're eligible for, so that you have many, many backups, because everything is open to you. You can apply to more than one thing. And then whatever you get, then hopefully you would get, for example, the Lund University scholarship. But if not, then it would be really wise to have a backup plan as well. Okay, so the Lund University Global Scholarship Program is covering a percentage of your tuition fee, and you can apply for like up to 90% of your fee to be covered, but it will also depend a bit on the budget which each department has. So you may receive a partial bursary of like 25% or 50%, for example. The award is based on merit and motivation. So your academics come into it, but also you write a letter describing your motivation to study at the university and what you want to do with your learning, essentially. And they're looking for people who are clearly very committed to studies and will achieve something and hopefully have a goal for like after. That's my tip for your letter if you apply for this. Eligible students are invited to apply after the study application period closes, so this would be in February. And the scholarship is only awarded to students who pick us as their first choice. So when you apply to studies in Sweden, you can apply to multiple programs. It's 4 programs at master's level or 8 programs at bachelor's level. But it's very important how you rank those programs because you only get considered for one program at a time. So if you receive entry into your first program, you will not get considered for any of the others that you've listed. So you must place your top choice as first in your ranking. Otherwise, it's possible that you get into a different university that you don't actually prioritize and never get considered for your priority program. So make sure you rank us first if our program is the one that you really want, and especially if you also want this scholarship. If you miss out in your first application, sometimes you can still apply the following year, but it's more rare to be given it during your studies rather than before you arrive. Of course, you can also work, and we're always very honest about this. We always say you shouldn't count on working when you come to study in Sweden. The reason is because you have a study commitment, which sometimes people underestimate. Even if you have less lecture hours a week, you're still going to be looking at least 35 hours working on your studies each week. So you can imagine that it will be quite hard to balance that against a very high hour job. Also, every student is looking for jobs, and you'll be competing with Swedish speakers as well as English speakers for those jobs. And of course, it's an advantage if you can also speak Swedish. There are jobs in Lund, and there are more jobs in Malmö, which is not very far away. So that is possible. But also, when you apply for your student residence permit, you have to show that you have enough funds to support yourself. So you can't just say to them, I will find a job. You have to already have the finances in place to support yourself. And that is also something that we want you to have, because we don't want this to be a stress for you. We want you to be able to complete your program. So we don't sugarcoat this one. We're always like, make sure that you have the right financial situation and a plan in order to come and study with us, because it is very costly. Okay, last note on accommodation and insurance. So we have a housing guarantee for non-EU students, and this is great because you don't have to find your own housing. You apply through us and we give you an offer. Usually it would be a corridor room, so that would be a private bedroom and usually a private bathroom, sometimes a shared bathroom, and then a shared living area. Dormitories or halls are located all over the city, and the rent is between 14,000 and 35,000 krona per semester, depending on the quality, the location, etc. It is possible to just rent your own apartment, but we strongly recommend starting with this, because then at least you have a base and then you can look for your own accommodation. And unfortunately, this accommodation that we offer is only suitable for single people. It's not family accommodation. Tuition fee liable students are also covered by a special insurance, so you can apply for your personal number when you arrive with the insurance that we offer. Okay, here are the last things that I want to share with you, just the key dates and deadlines so that you have them, and also a couple of top tips. So here are 3 application rounds, I suppose you can say, although really I would say it's 2 application rounds. The main application round right now is running from 17th of October, so it's already open, until the 16th of January. So during that time, you have to go to universityadmissions.se, select your programs and click apply. Then you have until 1st of February to actually upload all of your documents. For example, your transcripts, your degree certificate or letter showing that you're a final year student, your program-specific documents, and any other things that you need to put on there, including, for example, your passport, which would maybe show that you're fee exempt if you're an EU citizen, for example. And also you have to pay your application fee by the 1st of February if you're not fee exempt. That's 900 Swedish krona, which is around 90 euro. So that's all by 1st of February. And then if you're a master's applicant, you will get your results by the end of April. And if you're a bachelor's applicant, you will get your results in the first week of April. So very similar for both of those. This last column here with bachelor's and master's second admissions round is only for those who don't need a student residence permit to live in Sweden. So you can ignore that unless you are an EU citizen or you already live in Sweden. Those are the basic things to know there. Okay, so basically the key thing to note is that you must apply by the 16th of January and you have to upload your documents by the 1st of February for entry next year. So final top tips. When you apply, make sure that you look at the web page for your program that you're interested in and scroll down to this area, how to apply, and check whether your program requires any program-specific documents. Some programs don't require anything other than your evidence of your previous education, but some of them will say you need to submit a statement of purpose, so basically explaining your reasons for studying, why you're a good fit for the program. My tip there is to make sure that you highlight things about the program which you really like think to yourself, why do I really want this program more than any other? And make sure that your letter reflects that so that they can see why you are a good fit for this program and what you're going to do with that knowledge. And some will also require things like letters of recommendation, a CV, etc. So if they require that, they'll usually have instructions on what they want in this box here. So that's one tip, is to look at the program-specific documents. The second thing is, of course, make sure you also read the entry requirements on the same page as the program pages, because we can only consider you for admission if you really meet the entry requirements. We can't pre-assess you before you apply, but I think most cases you'll be able to assess yourself whether you're eligible, but let us know if you're not sure about something and we can help. Supporting documents have to be provided in the way described by university admissions. So you have to make sure that you submit the things that they ask for. And if there are any issues, then they have to make sure that they see that before the document deadline in order to tell you about it. So although the document deadline is the 1st of February, I would really recommend uploading your documents, including your ID, as soon as possible so that they can actually look at your application. And if they can, they will notify you if they see that something's missing. For example, say you uploaded your transcript and you missed off the last page or something like that. If we see it, we will tell you as soon as we can. Okay, so that was my top tips. That was the end of the presentation. If you want to find out more, you can go to our website. It's lunduniversity.lu.se. I will share some links in the chat now as well so that you can follow those, including the Contact Us form, which is where you can contact me if you want more information from me or if you want to ask a really specific question about your situation. I'm happy to help. My job is to help Turkish students, so I'm very happy to talk to you about your plans for study. So I'll stop sharing this presentation now, and I'll instead come back and share some links in this chat as well. So I will put a couple of key links in here, and then I will also look at the questions that we have. So I hope that this is possible to just post in here. So firstly, I'll post the Browse Our Programs link. That's one of the key links that we have. And then I'll also post the Turkey country instructions for both bachelor's and master's, and the English language requirements also. And then finally, I will just put some other key university links on here. First, I'll do about cost of living and scholarships. and housing. And then finally, I will just share a couple of links which will take you to our upcoming virtual events. So we have an upcoming event called Applicant Week, where it's actually 2 weeks, where you can actually join us and speak to students and staff in your subject area. So if you want more information about a particular subject area, I really recommend following that link and signing up there to our Applicant Weeks. Okay, let me have a look at the question box now. So I can see that somebody has asked, is there an opportunity to work for international students on the campus? Great question, thank you. So as I mentioned in the presentation, it is possible to work alongside your studies in terms of your migration permission. In terms of how likely it is that there will be a job that will come up on campus, it's less likely. I was one of the few who was actually lucky enough to work for the international office as a student before. However, that's because I already worked for like 5-6 years in international student support in the UK. So I had an advantage already. It is quite common that students are applying to our jobs very overqualified. So I would say that you're more likely to find a job elsewhere, such as in retail or in hospitality, for example, which is obviously a common choice for students and new incomers. And I was doing that also alongside my studies, I just want to mention. But like, it is possible in Malmö, in Lund, to find those kinds of jobs. And it is possible to find a student job on campus, but it's just, they're very rare. So I hope that helps. I know it sounds a bit discouraging to say that it's not that likely, but I think it's good to know that those jobs do exist. My top tip, but like they're not so common, but my top tip would be with seeking work, that in Sweden, everything is very much based on your networks. So my advice would be, and this is what I personally did as well, when you arrive, then make sure you make contact with as many people as you can. Like, for example, your lecturers, your classmates. Ask people about what jobs they know of. See whether opportunities present themselves. Help people out and see whether there's an opportunity that they tell you about through that. If something comes your way, take it, even if it's not really your perfect job, for example. These are just some things, I think it's mostly common sense, but like these are just some things that you can try to help you find work when you're here. I hope that helps. Okay, we've got, if someone, Hazal, I think is your name, asking, if the department that we study at the university is 100% in English, is there a need to prove your English level with IELTS? I think you hopefully received my answer during the presentation that yes, you do have to prove your English proficiency. We're looking for a certain level, and there's different ways to prove it, such as previous university studies or a test. So IELTS, we require 6.5 overall with no area below 5.5, just to give you a rough idea. Hopefully that answers your question, and you can also check the link which I shared around English requirements for more information on that. Okay, we've got, is there any age limit to join work and travel option? I think I'm not sure exactly what you mean with work and travel option limit, but in terms of study, there's no age limit. You're very welcome. You can, as long as you can meet the requirements that are set by the program and in general, then the age does not come into it whatsoever. So you just need to make sure that you read the country-specific guidance and our program pages to make sure that you are able to show the required documents. And as long as you can do that, then your age is not important at all. There are many master's students who are studying at a slightly older age as well, with families, for example. So you won't feel totally out of place. Of course, the majority of people in the classroom are like a bit maybe 20s to 30s, but there's always some older people as well. Okay. And then, fees. Okay, so I hope that you saw in the presentation, Faiza, but the fees vary depending on the program that you're studying. So the best place to look for the fee is on the program page, and it's going to be between 10,000 and 21,000 euro per year. depending on the program, but most of the programs are towards the lower end of that. So you should have a look on the program pages and find the program that you're interested in to see what the fee is for you. And finally, how long does it take to get a reply for the application? So I think you mean like, when do you find out whether you're in? So basically the stage will be that you will apply, and you have to do that by the 16th of January and upload your documents by the 1st of February. Then you will get a notification through on universityadmissions.se, and the first thing you're going to see is that your status has changed from applied to qualified or unqualified, and hopefully it says qualified, because what that means is that they have checked your documents and you have met the basic requirements. So at that stage, your application goes to the next step, where they actually assess your application against all of the other students who are qualified. Then you will actually get your results around 30th of March if you're a bachelor's applicant, or 5th of April if you're a master's, sorry, other way around, I believe. 30th of March if you're a master's applicant, and 5th of April if you're a bachelor's applicant. So those are the key dates for your diary. And it's a wonderful moment when those dates happen. Okay, we have another answer at the top. Another question. Can you raise your voice a bit, please? I'm sorry, Ayla. I really hope you can hear me. Yeah, I hope everybody can hear me. So is there any other questions that anyone else would like to ask while we're here? I guess that might be everything. What do you think? Looks like it. I'm just looking in the chat as well in case there's anything else that someone has asked here, but I don't see anything. Is there any other information that anyone would like me to share? Please do say if there's something you would like to look at, or another question that you still have. And then if not, we will just conclude the presentation. And as I mentioned earlier, you're very welcome to contact us. So the last link that I've left here in the chat is our contact us form. And you're very welcome to go there and fill out the form, and it will come through to me. As long as you indicate that your country of study is Turkey, then it will come through to me, and I will be happy to answer any other questions you might have, more specific questions, for example. Okay, I don't see any other. Oh, wait, maybe there is one. Can we get your email? Well, I actually would advise you to go through the contact form if it's okay, because the reason is that when you go through that form, you get added to our general mailing list so that you receive important information from the university. So I normally advise people to start there so that you are on our contact list. But as I mentioned, if you make sure to mention that you studied in Turkey, then I'm the lead contact. So as soon as you fill out that form, it will come through to me, and I normally answer within 3 to 5 working days. Okay, I think that's probably everything then. So thank you again, everybody, for listening. I really hope that you found that information useful. I hope you've saved some of these links here. And yeah, Zeynep, I think we're finished now.
Yes,
so.
Thank you very much for the great presentation, Rebecca. It was another great session. I think we believe it was very informative for the attendees too, and you covered all of the questions. Thank you for your answers too.
No problem. Thank you.
And also I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Umarım sizin için de faydalı bir webinar olmuştur. Lund University ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için chat kısmında paylaşılmış olan web siteleri inceleyebilirsiniz. Bir sonraki webinarımızda görüşmek üzere. Thank you very much again, Rebecca. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.